Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to race 2 of the Golf Radical Cup of 3 races that we'll have here this weekend. This is the second of 2 sprint races that we'll have. Tomorrow will be a 45-minute enduro right here at the Dubai Autodrome. What we are doing right now is we are setting up the field for the second race. In the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you see that white and green livery number 19. That will be Harry Hannum, who lines up in pole position. Alongside him will be Alexander Novichkov, who took second in the race earlier today, and will start from second position. Harry Hannum took the win. Will he make it 2 for 2 here today to end the day on a high? Well, it's going to be quite tough because, of course, he has Alex Bukunchtov and he has, of course, Johnny Kazoum to do battle with as well behind him. So it will be Bukunchtov in the 63 who lines up behind Harry Hannum, and then on his left-hand side will be Johnny Kazoum, the Lebanese driver, who was on the top step of the podium in the national category. A well-deserved victory as well for that very small team, and for a driver who's been doing this for a number of years. Great to see him back on that top step of the podium. Alex Bukunchtov pulls into position. He'll be greeted by the team and, of course, James Winslow, who is just standing in front of the car right now. They'll have a quick debrief, just talk about a few things here and there. If there's anything that Alex kind of wants to change ever so slightly, you can see there the team adjusting the pressures on the left front of the car. And of course the team has the blower in hand as well that will blow cold air into the engine just to cool it down a little bit here. Now, at least as we're in the afternoon here in the United Arab Emirates, we're almost at 2:30 here. There's a little bit of shade there from the grandstand covering the grid all the way down, though. It is where we see the very last car that's lining up that unfortunately has to sit out there in the sun. But looking at it as well, there is another car as well that's kind of sat in the sun as well. So the heat will be beaming down on them, and they'll be wanting to get this race over and done with as quick as possible. So in our first race, unfortunately, we had a little bit of drama through turns 2 and 3. What I can tell you is that the teams have got the cars prepared and back to racing standard here for the Golf Radical Cup. There is Harry Hannum, pole sitter for race 1, and of course our race 1 winner as well. He would like repeat success here. Didn't really come under pressure from Alexander Novichkov, Bukunchtov or Kazoum. Kind of a nice tidy race for the young British driver, looking to repeat that here in race number 2 today and walk away with more points to his championship title here, which will of course ride on the back of his championship title in the Clio Cup Middle East Championship. Of course, he's vying for overall top honours for the 25-26 Golf Radical Cup Championship. We have the overall, of course, we have the national class as well. Our highest placed national class driver is that number 5, the blue one that lines up alongside the very vibrant teal colour and black car of Alex Bukunchtov. Johnny Kazoum is our highest placed national class driver here in the second race of the Golf Radical Cup for sprint race number 2. So we've already spoken about row 1 and row 2. Row 3, Perry Deramas, who came into the pits towards the end of the, well, actually when we got back to green flag racing in race number 1, unfortunately Perry Deramas was tapped into a spin in turn 14 and not always right with the car, so he came in and he sat in pit lane. Now we have alongside him Vasi Vatican, who will indeed take up his position in race number 1. He started in from the pit lane, so the 96 is going to be one to watch out for here. Then we have Sibin Yousaf, who returns to the championship in the number 13 with Amir Faisalin alongside for company. He was on the 3rd step of the podium in class, and Sibin was in the 2nd position when it came the end of the race in the national class. Andy Lowe will line up in the 4 on row number 5. Alongside him, Alexander Klebanov. Then we have Yahid Kardem, and then we have Alexander Chichava. Kardem picked up a little bit of damage in the first race earlier today, but the team had done a fantastic job to get the car up back into exactly how Yahid would want it. Alexander Chichava also caught up. So was Sergey in the 44. Lines up in 13th on row number 7. Picked up damage and retired the car early on, and then alongside him is Alan Alfonsi, who finished the race earlier today in 10th position. And at the tail end of the field is the 87, who picked up an 8th-place grid penalty. It was a steward's decision, and also car number 3 as well, I've seen now on our list, receives a a 8-place grid penalty, but we don't have a number 3 with us here this weekend, so that was not applied to them. But there is the order of the drivers. I can tell you right now that is not who Johnny Kazoom is there on our screen, but he lines up in 4th position and looking for another victory in the national class. Vasily Vatikin and Perry Deramas will share that 3rd row of the grid. Qualifying in 5th position with Vasily starting in 6th. Sabine South for Dream Racing lines up alongside Amir Faislin, also racing for Dream Racing here. A rather large assault there from Dream Racing with a number of cars in the field, including Alex Bukunchtov. Andy Lowe for Golf Sport Racing lines up 9th position with Alexander Klebanov for Continental Racing in 10th position in the number 11. Then will come Yahid Kardim for Dream Racing alongside Alexander Chachava, his teammate from Dream Racing, in the 32. And then on the 7th row of the grid, we have Sergey in the 44 and Anna Alfonsi, both racing there for Golf Sport Racing. At the tail end of the field, Alexis in the 87, who receives that 8-place grid penalty, dropped to the tail end of the field there in 15th position here. So we're on the formation lap here for the Golf Radical Cup sprint race number 2. There are the final cars working their way through turn 10 with the chase car tucked in just behind them, and there is Harry Hannum and Alexander Novichkov, who will share the front row of the grid in a few moments' time. They'll line up in their positions. It will be a double file start here. It will be a rolling start as well, so 2 lines of cars will line up on either side, one on the left and one on the right. The left-hand side is where we'll see Harry Hannum, the pole sitter, in charge of that side of the field, and then Alexander Novichkov will be on the right-hand side, and he has a line of cars behind him, including Johnny Kazoom, our national class winner from earlier today. And with that said, Alexander Novichkov, the national class champion from last season, so he's promoted into the overall category and has to fight with Harry Hannum, Alex Bukunchtov and Vasily Vatikin for top honours in the overall class, while the majority of the field are taken up by the national class here. So the safety car pulls off. Alexander Sanyamas is behind the wheel of that safety car. It was only deployed once in our first race for the Golf Radical Cup, and it was the only time we saw the safety car deployed so far in any of the racing sessions that we've had here today so far. But here we go, we're about to get underway with sprint race number 2 for the Golf Radical Cup in round 2 of the 25-26 season. Harry Hannum will lead them through the final corners from pole position, but alongside him will be the very quick Alexander Novichkov. And will he be the one in the front when it comes through turn 1? We'll have to wait and see. Now, was that a car that peeled off into pit lane? Was that the 87? No, it wasn't. The 87 stays tucked in behind Alan Alfonsi and Sergey in the 44. But now through the final corner, just a few hundred meters to go, with the green lights ready to be shown to our drivers, and we are off here for the second time in the Golf Radical Cup for sprint race number 2. It's a great start. Let's see how it looks like down towards turn 1. It looks almost 5 wide. A great start there from Johnny Kazoom by the looks of it, but Alex Bukunchtov got the start that he needed. He's going to go around the outside of Harry Hannum. Hannum has the inside line. That's not where he'd liked him to be at all, as Bukunchtov and Hannum are going to go side by side through 2, 3, and that is very, very brave for the two of them there. A wealth of experience with that man behind the wheel of the 63, and a fiery young talent in the heart of Harry Hannum. And they're still side by side through sector 1, as Harry Hannum almost taps Bukunchtov into a spin, and that is advantage gain for the 63. But Hannum is going to want that position back immediately. How those two did not come together and spin rounds is anybody's guess, and it looks like Harry Hannum dived to the inside before the back straight, but did not take that position away from Bukunchtov. Bukunchtov wants to walk away with the top prize here today in our second race, as now he goes down the back straight with Harry Hannum behind him. We can have a look when they come through what the gap will be when they come through here for the first time. Looks like we've got through relatively cleanly through the first sector here, with just a slight bit of contact possibly between the 19 and the 63 for the lead of the race here at Dubai Autodrome for race number 2 of the Golf Radical Cup. So it is now Bukunchtov from Hannum from Novichkov, and then Johnny Kazoom lines up in 4th position here and leading the national class here at the moment. There is our race leader, the number 63, with James Winslow in his ear, informing him of everything around him, and to ensure that he brings that car home in the position that it currently is in as well, because of course he wants to walk away with the winner's trophy here in our second race. Now, it looks like Johnny Kazum is coming under pressure from Perry Deramas in the 69. We could have got a great battle between these two earlier on in our first race, and that, of course, is the battle for the top step of the podium in the national class. Only 4 drivers are classified as overall. The rest of the field are all classified as national class drivers. Our top 2, actually our top 3 are all in overall. So Bukunchtov from Hanum to Novichkov, and then Kazum in 3rd position at the moment, sorry, 4th position, tucked in behind. Yellow flag waving at turn 15 and turn 16. Now, we did see waved double yellows being waved down at turn 16 just before the race had begun. Actually, just before pit lane opened, it showed on our timing screen that we had double yellows being waved down there. Is the cause of that? Well, it's been withdrawn from our timing screens here. The gap up front is 1.2 seconds between Bukunchtov and Hanum, and now Bukunchtov really stretching out that lead here, really pushing the car as much as possible to try and get that gap between himself and Harry Hanum. That, of course, means that he'll be using up a little bit more of the car than he should be using, and of course James Winslow will be keeping a very close eye on him there. But I have noticed no in-car communication today. So no in-car comms there for Bukunchtov. And Hanum behind him. Novichkov trailing back, and I see the battle for the top step of the podium in the national class still rages on here between Johnny Kazum and Perry Deramas. They are in 4th and 5th respectively, the 5 and 69. Now, last time across the line, it was 0.7 of a second between the two of them. Looks a lot closer this time round between those two cars vying for position, and Vasily Vatikin is tucked in behind them as well, the 4th car in the overall category. Now, just to clear some things up here as well, as on the inside through the bowl goes Perry, but Johnny Kazum tries to answer back and having the inside line for the next corner, but it looks like Perry has pipped him, and that means we have a new race leader in the national class as well. Goes the way of the 69, and is that Siban Yousaf that's got ahead of Vasily Vatikin? It is indeed. So our top 3 now all ahead of our 4th placed car in the overall category. Mind you, we were just about to talk about it as well, all of the drivers participating here today can contest in the overall category. So, for example, if we have the 69 finishing in 3rd position overall, they will be eligible for the 3rd step of the podium on the overall podium. So 1.8 seconds is the gap between Bukunchtov and Hanum for the time being. And then a little bit further back, 0.6 of a second is the gap between Deramas and Kazum, and then it's a further 0.6 of a second back to Siban Yousaf, and then Vasily Vatikin is also within 0.6 of a second behind those 3 as well. Now, Alexander Klebanov being warned about track limits, but now it actually says turn 1 driving standards is what is being warned about. That is the number 11, currently shown as 10th overall in that final point scoring position. Just behind Andy Lowe at the moment. The battle between those two is 0.7 of a second, separating the 4 and the 11. The race start is under investigation. We did see this in the Golf Pro Car race earlier today, and we found out that it was actually only 1 car that was under investigation. So we'll have to see what the outcome of that will be. Now, Johnny Kazum coming under pressure from series returnee Siban Yousaf in the number 13. Here was on the 2nd step of the podium in the national class, would like to be 1 step higher this time round, but he's got to find a way past Johnny Kazum, and now of course that's slowing him down in that number 13, and it's allowing the 69 to escape up the road as well. And we've got a car around the outside through turn 14. Was that Johnny Kazum being pushed out wide? It did look like it, and that might be Siban Yousaf on the inside through and into 2nd. No, it wasn't. It was the 13 that was pushed out wide, as Vasily Vatikin now moves up to the buck bumper of Johnny Kazum, and Amir Faisalin is all over the back of Siban Yousaf here as well. He wants to be on the second step of the podium in class here. We've got a great battle brewing, and now it will be between 3 cars in the national class, as Vasily Vatikin looking on the inside of Johnny Kazum here to try and take that position away. That's just for position in class, not for position, position on track, not in class, because Vatikin is only in the overall category with all that experience that he has racing around the globe. So Bukunstov 1.6 seconds up the road from Harry Hannum. There is the confirmation that Vasily Vatikin is in front of Siban Yousaf, who in turn is under pressure from the number 15 of Amir Faisalin. Now, Alan Alfonsi is the one that's been picked up for a race start infringement here, some 8 minutes ago. And there is Johnny Kazum with Vasily Vatikin behind him, applying the pressure. The good thing is that Siban Yousaf is not as close as Vasily is at the moment, so he can kind of let Vasily through here, and he might get the position down towards turn 10, heavy into the braking zone. Vasily on the inside. Very close to contact there, but that's allowed Siban Yousaf now to close up as well. Are they going to try and go side by side through 11? Not quite, as Vasily cuts the nose off of Johnny Kazum's car then. And Siban Yousaf now looking on the inside through 13. No, that'll be turn 12, but Johnny Kazum is going to fight back here as much as he can. He's got to be careful because Amir Faisalin is there as well. That is for the positions of 2nd and 3rd overall in class. And Andy Lowe will be loving what's happening in front of him because he's going to bide his time now, and he's going to wait for these 3 to collect each other. As Amir Faisalin looking on the inside, and that was ever so close to Johnny Kazum, as Alexander Klebanov looks on the inside of Andy Lowe. We've got a great battle here for the second step of the podium in the national class. There is the leader in that category. Perry Deramas is all by his lonesome, wondering where is everybody else. Well, they're battling behind you for the second step of the podium in class, being led by Siban Yousaf in the 13, and then it's Johnny Kazum, then it's Amir Faisalin, Andy Lowe and Alexander Klebanov, all vying. There they are, all 5 cars battling for position. The car in front, the 96, is not in that class. They are in the overall of Vasily Vatikin, but it's Siban Yousaf who's currently in control of that second position at the moment. This is a fantastic battle brewing here in sprint race 2 of the Golf Radical Cup. It's exactly what we want to see here, vying for position in the mid-pack, but more importantly, vying for position on the podium as well. And what is the gap between these 5 cars? So Siban Yousaf 9/10 of a second back from Vatikin. 5/10 of a second back is Johnny Kazum. 6/10 of a second back is Johnny. Then it's 5/10 of a second back to Amir. Andy Lowe is 3/10 back. And then Klebanov is a further 6/10 of a second back. So just around 2-ish seconds separating these 5 cars who are all battling for that second step of the podium. Great to see Klebanov as well, vying and challenging for position here to try and take second away from the 4 that are in front of him for the time being. Now, a penalty was just applied to Alan Alfonsi, and that will be applied at the end of the race. It will be a 10-second penalty that will be applied to him. Indeed, it will be for a race start infringement. It doesn't say exactly what the race start infringement was. Was he out of place? Did he go maybe a bit too early? Maybe a bit too far ahead of the car that should have been alongside him? But unfortunately, that 10-second penalty is coming his way when the session comes to an end. There he is, Alan Alfonsi there in the 33, and it's very unfortunate for the Frenchman. As deep into turn 14 goes Johnny Kazum, followed by Amir Faisalin. Now, with these 2 battling, this is actually allowing Siban Yousaf now kind of to escape up the road with 14.5 minutes remaining on the clock. And now he can, of course, chase down Vasily Vatikin, because he'd like to have a car between himself and his closest rival, and, of course, try and get a bit closer to Perry as well, who you can just see further up the road down towards turn 1. The race leader, 1.3 seconds between Bukunstov and Hannum. Then it's a further 8.7 seconds from the race leader is Novichkov. But now he will be 7.3 seconds adrift from Hannum. And on that previous lap, Hannum purple through sector 1 as well. So he's starting to pick up the pace here. And no doubt will be starting to challenge for the top step of the podium. You can see them working their way through turn 8 and 9. Through the hairpin just before the long back straight go the 2 race leaders. And that is heavy into the braking zone as well. Now, who was that was out braking themselves? That looked like Andy Lowe, the number 4 by the looks of it. Yes, it would be, because he was up behind Amir Faisalin. Now, that lock-up is not what he needed. And is that a little bit of contact there between Klebanov and Andy Lowe going through turn 9? That looked awfully close between the two of them. Or maybe just another lock-up there from Andy Lowe. Not exactly what you want to do, because you don't want to have a flat spot on these tyres as well, because that will make an uneven surface as they're rotating around the Dubai Autodrome Grand Prix circuit configuration. Warning flag comes out now for Alexander Klebanov here for track limits. As Amir Faisalin looking on the inside of Johnny Kazoum, up through the old hairpin by the UP building. A little bit of contact there between the two of them, but not enough to do any significant damage, and they're going to continue side by side down now towards the bowl. Kazoum has the inside line, but Amir's going to push him as close to the inside as he can, and he nudges in front of him. And Kazoum's going to look on the inside once again of Amir Faisalin. Great stuff here in the national class, battling for position. That's the 3rd step of the podium. And that's Amir Faisalin now into that finishing position. But Kazoum is going to fight back, and he's going to do it through 16, is he? Breaks a little bit earlier compared to Amir Faisalin, as Johnny Kazoum runs wide through 16. And will try and stay on the back. And you can see Amir looking in each and every mirror that he has possible to find out where is Johnny. As Kazoum looks now on the inside of turn 1, but Amir cuts him off and says, this is my position. You're going to have to fight me to the end of the race here if you want to be on the 3rd step of the podium. Continues on, loses a little bit of time through that first couple of corners there for Johnny Kazoum, but no doubt will be attacking once again when it comes to the back straight, specifically in the braking zone at turn 10. There you go. There is Bukhanstov and there is Hannum, and that gap has come down by 9/10 of a second is the gap now between these two. Now, car 69, a warning flag for track limits, but there are 2 other numbers, the 32 and 87 also being warned about track limits. One of those is Alexander Chichava, and the other one is down in 14th at the moment. There is our race leader, who is only 9/10 of a second up the road, bouncing all over the curbs ahead of Harry Hannum, who is closing in with 11 minutes to go on the clock here for the 63 and 19. So through the bowl complex they go on lap number 7. And Hannum just trying to reel him in. Is Novichkov a little bit further back, 8.6 seconds, but did a personal best on the previous lap there of a 2:05.416. So Amir Faisalin also moving up, as we said before we saw that, and there you go on the digital signboard, not 1 but 4 different numbers being displayed. I wonder if that's the maximum amount of numbers that we can have on the timing screen. The gap has come down now to 7/10 of a second up front, 2/10 taken out of Bukhanstov that time round by the young Harry Hannum. Novichkov falls now 10.2 seconds adrift from Harry Hannum. What is now the battle for the top step of the podium in the overall category in sprint race number 2. Bukhanstov in the 63 leads from Harry Hannum. And now is not the time to make a mistake here for either of these two as they battle for top honours in race number 2. It went the way of Harry Hannum in race number 1. But Bukhanstov wants to walk away with the biggest trophy at the end of the day here in race number 2. And look at the gap that they pulled out over Novichkov as well. 10.2 seconds, the drift. You can't even see Novichkov when they're making their way down the back straight. Although we are quite zoomed in, so obviously it's a given that we won't be able to see Novichkov all the way in the distance, but that gap is quite significant there between those two, or maybe those 3, because of how close Harry Hannum is. Now, will this gap close up as we work our way now through the final stages of Sector 2 and into Sector 3? Amir Faisalin now being warned about track limits. And no doubt George King will be on the radio to inform him about that as well. 5-second penalty for Turn 1 driving standards infringement going the way of Alexander Klebanov. who was once in the battle for the third step and the second step of the podium in class, but unfortunately now will drop 5 seconds when we get the results at the end of the race here. 8.5 minutes remain on the clock here for Alex Bukunchtov and Harry Hanna, who make their way through turn 16. It was 7/10 of a second last time round. It's under 4/10 of a second now separating these two. The battle is truly on, and look at the gap these two have over Novichkov as he just enters frame there at the back through turn 16. These two are certainly in a class of their own here in the second race of round 2 of the Golf Radical Cup, the 25-26 season. And looking on the inside goes Hannum, but Bukunchtov shuts the door on him pretty much immediately, says, nope, you're going to have to fight a little bit harder if you want through here. And of course, Harry Hannum is not shy to get his hands dirty either. Maybe a slight tap is on the menu here somewhere. Of course, he's not going to consider taking him out because that would be bad sportsmanship, and it's not something that Harry Hanna would ever do either. And he doesn't want to get too close there to the back bumper of Bukunchtov. But this is certainly going to be a fantastic battle here to the end of the race here between these two. And who will be the one on the top step of the podium? Well, we've got 7 minutes on the clock left to figure that out. Not looking deep on the inside at turn 10. We try and get the switch back as he closes right up there in the braking zone and almost loses the rear end there. Does Harry Hannum, and now he's being warned about track limits. He's got to be careful. That's his first warning. 2 more and he could incur a penalty, and that's something you definitely don't want to have, especially if you're vying for position not just on track but in the overall point standings as well. As Hannum continues to chase down Alex Bukunchtov here for the race lead. 11.6 seconds is the gap now to the third place car of Alexander Novichkov, who sits in third position. But what about that battle for the podium in the national class? Well, we'll get to that in a few moments' time, because Hannum and Bukunchtov coming through the final corner here as well. And you can see now Harry Hanna will be warned about track limits from the digital signboard on the starting gantry here. 0.2 of a second, the gap is coming down again as Hannum is going to try the long way around turn 1. That wider line, a quicker line through the exit as well, and it's all over the back of Alex Bukunchtov, and Bukunchtov's going to make that radical as wide as he can to eliminate any possibilities as Hannum almost getting loose there through turn 3. So Hannum, Alfonsi and Karim now being warned about track limits, and looks around the outside once again through turn 8 and 9 here at the Dubai Autodrome. Bukunchtov cuts him off, so that means Hanna will have to look deep to the inside to see if he can sniff an opportunity. And now this is where he can certainly capitalise. Picks up the toe from Bukunchtov down the back straight, and then it'll be heavy into the braking zone down towards turn 10. And then, of course, he will be looking deep on the inside, but Bukunchtov's going to cover that line as much as possible and force Hannum out wide. But it looks like inside goes Hannum through turn 10. Harry Hannum will say, thank you very much, I'll take that position away. And now I'm off into the sunset, but Bukunchtov says, not so quickly. I'm going to stay with you now in the last 5 minutes of the race here. And no doubt Bukunchtov will fight back and try and retake that position away from the young Harry Hanna. But new race leader after 20 minutes of racing here. Harry Hannum retakes the lead as Andy Lowe now on the inside of Alexander Klebanov, going down into the braking zone of turn 10, and very late on the brakes is Bukunchtov. Very close to a lock-up there, but all that experience made sure that did not happen as Bukunchtov looks on the inside of the exit through turn 14, and I can see, I can actually hear the tension behind me with James Winslow, who of course driver coaching Alex Bukunchtov. A bit of a sigh of relief there as well, I think, for not getting as close as Bukunchtov can be to the back bumper of Harry Hannum. But now it's all up to Bukunchtov to see if he can retake that position away from Harry Hannum. Now that warning has popped up again. I wonder if this is a repeat warning or if this is the original warning that popped up about a lap ago for Hannum, and he's really extending that lead there in that Gulf Sport Racing number 11 is Harry Hannum. But Bukanshtov knows how to reel in drivers in front of him, and he's going to do all that he can. He's going to throw absolutely everything he can here with 3.5 minutes to go on the clock to see if he can reel in Harry Hannum once again and retake the position away to walk away with 25 points to his name when it comes the end of this 25-minute race here. Hannum leads again here at the Dubai Autodrome in Golf Radical Cup Round 2, Sprint Race 2 of the 25-26 season. So far, this is pretty much how it's played out throughout the whole season, with Hannum and Bukanshtov vying for the top step of the podium in the overall category. And Hannum pushes on here and tries to extend that lead between himself and Bukanshtov with the 63, and then we have to look a ways back to find where Alexander Novichkov is, because he's 10.7 seconds adrift. Now that is Sibin Yousaf with Amir Faisalin behind him. That is second and third in the national class at the moment. Perry Daramas is the race leader in that category. We haven't focused too much on him in the 69. A bit of troubles in the race earlier today, but we'll be delighted to end the day as well with a trophy and a winner's trophy in class as well, as the battle for second continues on. It was not too long ago we had a 5-way battle for the second step of the podium, excuse me, in the national class, as the race leaders are across the line, separated by 1.4 seconds. But now, just going back to the national class, it is now just a 2-way battle for the second step of the podium between Sibin Yousaf and Amir Faisalin in the 13 and 15 respectively. And now I have a feeling this should be the last lap of the race as well, because we crossed the line with less than 2 minutes to go on the clock, and the race leaders are doing 2:04s and 2:05. So indeed this should be the last lap of the race here as well. So only a handful of corners left for Alex Bukanshtov to make his move, because not all corners offer an overtaking opportunity. Only a handful do. Turn 10 and turn 16 are certainly places to do it, but he certainly doesn't want to leave it to those corners either. But it seems that's where he might have to make a move. 1.4 seconds is the gap. Now we're coming up to turn 10. Bukanshtov is not close enough to make a move on Harry Hannum. Now up through turn 11, and it doesn't look like Bukanshov's going to be any closer through 14 and 16 if he wants to make a move on the inside, as we're now in the closing stages of Sector 2. But looking at the time, we actually might have enough time for one more lap. Let's wait and see when we come through 16 how much time we have left on the clock, and will we have another lap as well for Bukanshtov to try and take that position away and take the lead away from Harry Hannum. So through turn 14 with 20 seconds to go, we may have enough time left on the clock here for an additional lap. As through the final corner comes Harry Hannum. He would like the clock to say 0 when he comes across the line, but the checker flag is at the ready, so indeed that was the final lap, and Harry Hannum can breathe a sigh of relief as he keeps Alex Bukanshtov at bay by 0.8 of a second. But a fantastic drive once again from these two here. Harry Hannum makes it 2 for 2, and there is the thumbs up from Bukanshtov. True sportsmanship there, although it was not where he wanted to finish. Bukanshtov gives the seal of approval there to Harry Hannum, as of course the torch will be passed over to him as a force to be reckoned with here in the Golf Radical Cup. There's Andy Lowe, unfortunately not in a position that he would like to be, and they're across the line. We briefly saw the 69 of Perry Daramas, who takes the win in the national class ahead of Sibin Yousaf and Amir Faisalin. Big thumbs up there as well from Sibin Yousaf to Amir Faisalin, saying job well done there, thanks for the battle. Those two will see each other on the podium as well, as Andy Lowe, Johnny Kazoum and Alexander Klebanov across the line as well. Now, finishing third overall is Alexander Novichkov, who will be on the podium once again. Would like to have been 1 or 2 steps higher, but he will definitely enjoy being on the podium once again after that brilliant qualifying session earlier today. So that brings an end now to the second race of the day for Golf Radical Cup. That was Novichkov there, just moving across off the racing line. But of course, it is the end of the race here, and he's going to be happy there with another podium finishing position. That is the 87 of Alexis, who down in 14th position is where he will finish. Not exactly where he would like to have finished at all. He would have probably liked to be a bit further up the order, but with that 8th place grid penalty, he would have liked to be higher up during the qualifying as well. Qualified reasonably decently, but unfortunately that penalty drops him down the order, and he had a lot of work cut out for him as well. Had to really carve his way through the field. There is Amir Faisalin. He'll be third in class, in the national class, and will enjoy being on the podium once again. So 2 trophies to walk away for him. Perry Deramas, I think, will be the only driver of the top 6 to not have been on the podium in the previous race. So let's have a look at where everybody finished. Harry Hannum for Gulf Sport Racing takes the victory in the 19 ahead of Alex Bukunchtov for Dream Racing in the 63 in second. Alexander Novichkov for Continental Racing third overall, and it will be on the 3rd step of the podium. On the top step of the podium in the national class will be Perry Deramas for Gulf Sport Racing, with Vasily Vatikin 5th overall for Continental Racing. Dream Racing have 2 more drivers on the podium for Sibin Yousaf and Amir Faisalin. I know the plan was to have gold, silver and bronze there, but at least there will be 3 drivers from Dream Racing across 2 podiums. Amir Faisalin, as we said, 3rd step of the podium. Johnny Kazoo misses out on the podium this time round for KAA Motorsport in 8th position overall. Andy Lowe and Alexander Klebanov round out the top 10. Sergey in the number 44 finishes 11th overall in his debut in the championship. A great weekend. It went in qualifying, not so much in terms of the race results there for the newest driver in the field. Alexander Chachava finishes 12th, with Alan Alfonsi 13th. Alexis there in the 87 finishes 14th, and Yahid Karim at the tail end of the field in the number 7. So that brings an end here to Golf Radical Cup, sprint race number 2. We'll have the podium presentation shortly, and then of course we will say goodbye for the day to the Golf Radical Cup series. They'll be back tomorrow for their 45-minute enduro, which will feature 1 mandatory pit stop here, and of course there will be extra time to be served for our top 3 in the previous endurance race at the Yas Marina circuit, where they will have to be sat in the pit lane for an additional 5, 10 and 15 seconds compared to the rest of the field that just had to be stationary for 45 seconds here in the 3rd and final race of the day. That will be tomorrow that will have that race. And as we prepare ourselves for the podium, before we do that, we'll check out some highlights from what happened here in the 2nd race of the day. But So now with the second race of the Golf Radical Cup completed, we will now have the podium presentation for the second race here. As always, you wonder why I'm standing inside like this. That's because I haven't got batteries on my other microphone, unfortunately. So to make sure the drivers come out for our top three in the national class, they can hear me when I'm standing in here. So let's first bring out third overall in the national class, Alim. In second position, please welcome Simin Yousaf. And to the top step of the podium, please welcome Harry Deramas. And those are your top three in the national class. And let's bring out some marshals now to help us present. We'll first invite Mohammed to present the third place. Or better, Lester, you're going to be doing the third place one? No, Mohammed's going to hand it over. He's going to walk on over there and hand it over to Amir Faisalin. Then we will invite Rashid to help us present the second place trophy in the national class to Simin Yousaf. And then last but not least, we'll invite Lester to help us present the winner's trophy in the national class to Perry Deramas. And a well-deserved victory there for Perry. It's been a long time coming as well in the category. And finished with a car in front as well. We had an overall car in between the two of them there. So that is the national class podium presentation done and dusted. We'll move on now to overall here for our top three in the category. So we have all three drivers ready to go. Indeed, we do. Now then, let's bring out third overall, driving the number 8. Please welcome Alexander Novichkov. In second position, please welcome Alex Bukanshtov. And last but not least, our race 2 winner, Harry Hannum. And to help us present the trophies, we'll once again invite Mohammed to help us present the third place trophy in class, which goes the way of Alexander Novichkov. We will then invite Rashid to help us present the second place trophy in class to Alex Bukanshtov. And last but certainly not least, our race 2 winner. Let's invite Lester back once again to help us present the winning trophy to Harry Hannum. And that wraps up the podium presentation for thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow, back here for qualifying to set up the field for our 45-minute enduro.